going to then move forward item number 9, which is the Warwickshire Fire and Rescue future operating model, and I'm going to take the public speakers first, if I may. So, starting first, Keith, with you, if you'd like to address us.
Dear Cabinet, our fire and rescue service in the Neaton and Bedworth is the busiest in Warwickshire. They've saved many lives and saved lots of valuable buildings in our borough. The fire and rescue service clearly needs to make changes to adapt to the availability of on-call fire services in some areas and the changing nature of incidents. However, reducing the number of appliances and crews in the busiest area of the county is reckless. The full-time crews in the Neaton are the busiest in Warwickshire, 1,408 call-outs a year. We also have the busiest on-call crews at Bedworth, which is another 240 calls per year. That's 26% of Warwickshire incidents are covered by the two Nuneaton-based appliances, and another 4.5% by the Bedworth on-call appliances. And the other 11 on-call units only do 12% of on-calls. So you can see how busy Nuneaton is. My proposal to keep the second appliance in Nuneaton has been ignored. Keeping it during the daytime is an affordable way to reduce the job losses, to reduce burnout, and it just makes the whole system more resilient. This could also be combined with retaining the Bedworth on call in the evenings. I'm an engineer and we always look at the reasonable worst case situation. These average first time appliance stuff is useless. We need to be looking at the worst case, and if you look at climate change, it causes peaks of activity at the same time. So I'm asking the Cabinet not to take forward the Nuneaton changes. Clearly you need to progress some of the areas that reduce risk as quickly as possible, but we need to look at the Nuneaton arrangements again. Really look at the average based annual responses. Nuneaton is so busy to actually take capacity out of Nuneaton is reckless. We're going to have burnout, and I've been very disappointed with the consultation and scrutiny. Obviously, you brought forward it to scrutiny during the general election period, which was highly dubious, the knowledge of these cuts has been really poor in Nuneaton. So I do ask you move forward with the bits that are non-contentious, but we have a really good look at Nuneaton, because I do not want there to be loss of property and loss of life because you've hollowed out the fire service in the most busy area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keith, for that. Can we move on then to Penny, please?
Within this radically changed proposal, Model 1A, there are 4 stations: Shipston, Fenny Compton, Gaydon and Atherstone, 3 of which are in the south of the county. These will be reclassified as Resilient Surge in 2A. CFO Brooke informed those at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting details of how this would work. The emphasis is on should work. This relies on enough full-time staff signing up to the resilience model on top of their 40-hour per week shifts. Is there any evidence that surge resilience model has been used successfully elsewhere? Do the Cabinet fully understand what resilience is and the time-lapse of availability? The resilience fire stations in the south of the county leaves the area dangerously short in an emergency. Reducing the available appliances from 8 to 3 during the night endangers residents, employees and people travelling through this area. Do the Cabinet feel this is acceptable and it will provide enough emergency cover? We welcome contracted on-call at night. However, we believe with proactive recruitment, contracted on-call in the day is feasible for Bidford and for Polesworth, and will utilise resources already in place with little finances required just by concentrating on better recruitment. Despite concerns raised about attendance times in the consultation, this is now going to be 20 minutes plus in the south and southeast of the county, assuming the closest fire engine is not deployed elsewhere. Does Councillor Seacombe think this is acceptable for the residents where she is elected to represent?
Thank you very much, Penny. That's the last speaker that we have is Dr. Manuela Pategela, and over to you, Manuela.
Thank you for allowing me to come and speak today. I'm here to talk about how these proposals affect my constituency of Stratford-on-Avon. The new proposals are significantly different from those which were previously presented, and I'm therefore calling on the County Council to reopen the public consultation. It is vital that residents, businesses, parish and town councils, district council are listened to and that their views taken into account. It is better to take a little longer so that these views are heard by Cabinet before you take the final decision. Regarding the new proposals, while retaining on-call night cover for Bidford and Henley proposed to be 24/7 whole time and on-call are improvements from the previous model, I'm concerned about reduction of fire and rescue cover in Ulster, Shipston and south of the constituency. Proposal 2 represents a 62% reduction in appliances across the south of Warwickshire overall. In particular, in my constituency, obviously, we are losing day cover in Bidford, in Ulster, losing 50% from Stratford, and effectively losing Shipston on Stour because it becomes a resilience hub. The leader of the Stratford District Council at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee last month highlighted two problems where it is important to have night cover for Ulster, for example. The town depends on flood defences to protect residents and businesses. And of course, last winter, the defences came close to being breached several times, again at night. At the A46 and the A435, both routes are heavily used by AGVs, especially at night, as a cut-through between motorways, and most accidents occur at night. And of course, you all be aware that Ulster was the home of two other firefighters who died in the Atherstone fire, which occurred at night time. The proposed resilience station for Shipston leaves this area and surrounding villages extremely vulnerable. Warwickshire County Council choice of average response time as measure of performance allows you to extend the response times in remote areas, and I was briefed by some of my constituents that the correct measure is mod +3 upper standard deviations with special investigation on outliers. Many on-call qualified and dedicated firefighters with their invaluable expertise and skills might lose their posts as they won't want to be full-time, or they may move to resilience only. So finally, I understand the finance is for 3 years only. There is no guarantee of ongoing funding. How do we know that there won't be more fire station closures or changing to resilience hubs in the future in our area?
Thank you very much. Just within time, too. Just within time. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will move now and bring forward the item 9 report. And if I can ask Councillor Andy Crump to present it.
Thank you, Chair. The report has been brought about after a long consultation process with lots of consultation responses, 1,300 responses from all societies, all parts of Warwickshire society, businesses, residents, parish councils, town councils, etc. Retained on-call firefighters, retired on-call firefighters. And we went all parts of the county at different times of the day throughout January, February and March. It seemed a lot longer than that. It seems like January, February, March, April, May, June, July and August. But
And December.
that's right, definitely. So we have listened to what the feedback is coming from our residents, and this is why we've come forward with a different model. Rather than Model 2A, we've got the Model A. And as part of this report, the recommendation is that the Cabinet agrees the adoption of Model A as Warwickshire Fire and Rescue's operating model and give the associated finances required to fund that model. It also recommends that there should be changes to the Community Risk Management Plan because of adopting Model A, and that these are taken to full council. The report outlines how Model A has been developed and obviously taking into account expert opinions, advice, etc. And Mr. Brooke obviously commissioned a risk management review. And this review basically assessed whether Warwickshire Fire and Rescue had its resources in the right place at the right time. And in light of the feedback, in light of the responses, the alternative model, which is 2A, is now being produced with significant improvements, particularly around response times. For example, I think in Nuneaton and Bedworth, the response time improves by 1 minute and 2 seconds. So obviously we had the consultation. Model A really addresses the challenges that Warwickshire Fire and Rescue has been facing over the years. The 4 challenges: Warwickshire Fire and Rescue has more fire engines available at night than in the day, even though activity is highest during the day. On-call availability in its current form is declining in certain areas, and also nationally, raising challenges around sustainability. Response time targets were not being achieved, and the 4th challenge was around the day crew plus shift system, which is potentially being subject to a legal challenge nationally. So they were the 4 challenges that we were aiming to solve within Model 2, Option 2A. We're still aiming to solve those problems, but I think Model A does meet those challenges. And under our Model A, response times will certainly be more sustainable because we've got guaranteed availability of the appliances, 14 during the day and 13 at night. Model A improves the average first engine response time county-wide by 58 seconds, and we're also improving the capacity to deliver prevention and protection activities by 27%. And in the proposals, we're looking to recruit 30 whole-time firefighters. And finally, the adoption of Model A will see an investment of almost £1.8 million of revenue investment funding and £460,000 worth of capital investment funding into Warwickshire Fire and Rescue. So I commend this report to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I do want to just say thank you to you and to the Chief Fire Officer for the very wide consultation process that took place, and you know, I know too that you put additional in place during the whole process so that we tried to meet as many people as possible, and indeed I know there were not only consultations, there were individual meetings that you held as well, and I think it's been very thorough and as comprehensive as we possibly can be, which of course is always important. You know, my particular view and concern on the whole process, which is a national issue, about the changing demography that we have and perhaps the changing society, is trying to address the issue of how we get more on call. And you know, it isn't Warwickshire, it is an issue that we're facing, and maybe this is, you know, this is one of the big unsolved conundrums that a society of double income families has to look at, and how we take this forward. But it has put us in this position, and it has given us this opportunity to come forward. And I think particularly I want to pay some credit to Bidford, who we went to very early, actually in December. I remember coming out, very full hall there, and I know that they have helped to shape what we've seen coming forward to today, to try to find a solution that meets the needs of the change. And you know, we have got issues that look at there are less fire incidents, there are far more road traffic incidents, and I think we also need to commend our fire service people, both whole time and on call, for the work that they do in trying to help and prevent people within their own homes to think about the risks and the safety that they put in place that has driven down the demand. But what we have before us is, I think, something that we should commend as being fit for the immediate future and something that we can say that we have addressed the risk in the county. So, without further ado, I'm going to go first of all to Sarah, and Tanya, and then John. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a few comments first, and then I'll make my substantive points. I think Andy and I are the only councillors who went to every single consultation meeting. There were lots of fire personnel, obviously, who went to every one as well. But Andy and I, obviously Andy went, and the fire service personnel went to a lot more meetings than that. And I'm very grateful, for example, at Leamington Town Council. Both Andy and Ben came to that. So I think they took the whole consultation role extremely seriously. And agree or disagree, I don't think you can fault that. And I have never disagreed with the concept of going up to consultation, because consultation and done well. And I think this has been done well. And Ben kept saying, we're going to listen. And that's what's happened. And I don't think, I mean, to see an extra £2 million coming into the fire service, and some of the changes, some more whole time, you know, we're seeing some good improvements in cover, particularly in the south of the county. I'd also like to say thank you for the extra information. I thought the Resources ONS report was not the best. The information on spending an extra £2 million was actually extremely sketchy. There were no heat maps, there were no second appliance times, and we've now got that. So thank you very much indeed for that. But if you look at the heat map, particularly for the south-east of Warwickshire, you will see that that red, i.e. more than 20 minutes, has spread like some horrible virus. It sort of spread up the page. So actually, Fenny, Shipston, they are now, almost Gaydon as well, are now more than 20 minutes away. And I'm sure the Chief Fire Officer would say, oh, well, they'll be coming across from Banbury. Well, perhaps they might, but they might not be able to. And so I do think that whole bottom southeast corner particularly has been left more vulnerable by these changes than perhaps they were before. And you can also see on the second fire attendance times, they've gone down in 3 parts of the district. I mean, North Warwickshire's gone down by over 2 minutes. And second appliance, fire, you've got a fire in a home. In my own area, we've got more tower blocks, I think, in Leamington than anywhere else in the county. At the moment, 5 appliances need to go. And if it's at night, those 5 appliances are coming from a long distance to actually get to Leamington, which is a concern. And I'm just as an aside, I'm very concerned to see the not 24-hour cover at Kenilworth, even though it's an on-call station currently. Losing that on-call at night, I think, is very detrimental to Leamington. We rely in Leamington on Kenilworth being like that third appliance, and I would ask that that be looked at again. Regarding the financial information, it's amazing that suddenly an extra £2 million could be found, and that is not an insignificant sum. £2 million, and it's coming out of reserves. So what happens in 3 years' time? We have a new government, we have potentially more money for local government, but I wouldn't hold your breath. And where are we going to find £2 million? Well, £1.5 million, £500,000 extra a year is what we're talking about. If that's not built into base budget, in 3 years potentially we have a situation where that money is not there anymore, and then this whole thing starts to unravel. So I would ask you to think about exactly what that's going to happen. We're also going to lose a lot of our on-call firefighters. Now, this model shifts very significantly from relying on on-call to having whole time, which is where the extra cost is coming from. But that means a lot of our on-call firefighters who are out there training and doing the business are probably going to lose their posts. So we're going to lose a lot of experience and some really good, keen people for whom their lifestyle will not fit becoming a whole-time firefighter. So I'd like a comment, perhaps from Andy, to explain. I mean, at the scrutiny committee, I didn't feel I got a very good answer on this whole thing of how much is it going to cost, how many do you think might be lost. That takes me on to my final point, which is around the whole point of consultation. Now, at the scrutiny committee, Councillor Crump said this plan is radically different from what we went out to consult on. And I wrote it down, and I don't think there's any question that Andy agrees that he said that. It's radically different. Well, if it's radically different, we should actually go out and consult again. I know it may keep the uncertainty going for a little bit, but I think this plan is radically, radically different And I think for the community, particularly in the south, I mean, if you look at this, the split between Polesworth and Atherstone, you split your on-call and your day crew. Same in Ulster and Bidford, you're splitting. So there's a lot of change coming, and I think communities should absolutely have the chance to have a look. So I would ask Cabinet to actually go out to public consultation again. And my final point is around the CRMP. Now, all the way through this, we were told that it would definitely come to full council. Cabinet made the decision today, yes, I get that, but that the consultation on the CRMP, the Community Risk Management Plan, would go to full council in due course. There's a suggestion in this paper that will not happen. And I think I would ask you to ensure that it actually goes to full council for that vote, because otherwise most of us will not have had a chance to stand up at a council meeting, express an opinion and put our hands up for good or aye. So I would ask that you actually agree to go out to public consultation again, and then you also ensure that the decision on the CRMP will be taken by full council. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. John?
Yes, thank you. First, let me say that I'm very impressed with the quality of the fire and rescue service we have at the moment. I've visited many fire stations. The staff there clearly know what is expected of them, and they do it. And of course, speed and accuracy of response is crucial, with the bulk of the work being rescue, and the speed of getting a victim into hospital and medical treatment is absolutely crucial. Also, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to go to the annual Fire and Rescue Awards ceremony, where we recognise the service of our staff in what can be dangerous and distressing work sometimes, and sometimes perhaps exciting, but service is the key to the whole thing. Now, Councillor Feeney has been leading for the Labour side on this, and she's been diagnosed with COVID today, and that's why she's not here. She and I are concerned that there are so many people that still have concerns about this, and of course a lot of the people who have the most concerns are people who have been most recently elected and probably therefore most in tune with their residents. We would like to reserve our right to call this in, because we do need to reconcile the views of the people that have spoken today and other people. You know, we've got 4 new members of Parliament in Warwickshire. Obviously they should have a say, and we need to feed our views back to them about the funding we want for our fire and rescue service. What I would like perhaps some advice, if possible, of how we can call this in, because it's been through scrutiny. Would the call-in be to full council?
John, that will be provided after, if you choose to call it in, and that would be something that you would talk to the monitoring officer about. So thank you.
Well, and the community resilience plan, we understand, is coming to council in September. Is that correct?
It is correct. So I'm sure we can take this for further discussion through the group offices and through Sarah, if that would be appropriate. Thank you. Was there more to come, John? Did you want to say anything further? Otherwise, I'm
Yes,
calling Jerry.
I have particularly had representation. We've heard from the south of the county, but the north of the county, and that has been mentioned as well, the North Warwickshire and Nuneaton Bedworth area certainly have concerns which I think are known and understood, but definitely need to be considered before any final decision is made.
Thank you, John. Jerry.
Thanks. Just a quick point, really. I'm looking at recommendation number 2, which talks about recommends to council any such consequential changes that may be required to the CRMP as a result of adopting Model A. I'd like to know what those consequential changes might look like in order for this to go to full council, really. If you could explain that and exactly what it means.
I have no other speakers at this point, so I'm going back to you, Andy, if I may.
Right, there's quite a few points there. It's mentioned that Fenny Compton will be 20 minutes. Well, I think Councillor Bird mentioned Fenny Compton would be 20 minutes. That won't be the case because Southam is going to be full time from 7 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. So if that happened during the day, Southam can be at Fenny Compton within 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. Because I live in Southam and I go to Fenny Compton quite regularly and I don't exceed the speed limit. And sometimes I haven't got blue light on to get past. But we will look at the items in particular. But what we are saying at the moment is that covering the south is extremely difficult. And we need to be more transparent because during the day, Shipston, the figures I've got, is available 0.7% of the time when activity is highest and 6% on average day and night. So covering the south of the county is already being provided by other parts of the county. At the moment, we can only guarantee 11 pumps during the day. Under the new proposals, we will guarantee 14, which gives the Chief Fire Officer operational independence to allocate those pumps to whichever part of the county he sees fit, depending on the risk. The same with Fenny Compton. So therefore, these proposals, Mr. Brook has asked for a certain level of resources, which we've provided. We've provided additional resources over the next 3 years of almost 1.8 million revenue and almost £500,000 capital. And he sees fit, after taking advice, looking at modelling, listening to the consultation, to deploy them in this configuration. We will review this configuration on a regular basis to see how things are operating, but it's certainly, we are improving cover, we are improving response times throughout the county by less than just under a minute on average, and in Nuneaton and Bedworth it's going to be improved by 1 minute and 2 seconds. So therefore we think, we felt, and we've listened to the proposals. Councillor Bowden mentions radical change. Probably that was, I think I did use those words. But these are significant improvements to the responses to keeping our Warwickshire residents safe, keeping our businesses safe, and keeping visitors to Warwickshire safe. So significant improvements. And it's one of the things we are doing this because we have listened. We mentioned about going out to consultation again. How many times can we go out? Because I said it over in scrutiny committee that this is causing uncertainty for firefighters, for communities, for residents. And we think we've come up with a really good model because we could consult, I think we've consulted, we've really listened, and if we hadn't made these significant improvements, we could have been accused of paying lip service to the consultation. You've had all these responses and you've made marginal improvement or changes. We've made significant improvements to improve the situation and invested almost £1.8 million worth of revenue over the next 3 years and £500,000 capital. And the Chief Fire Officer has certainty for 3 years. Local government finance and the mention of the new government, I'm sure Mr. Powell, the Section 151 officer, would welcome a 3-year financial settlement because we're currently getting 1 year. 3 years is positive and it gives the Chief Fire Officer plenty of time to look at the resources, to make sure we've got our resources in the right place and to tie in our CRMP that runs 3 years. And even if we hadn't had this change, we would have been looking at resources over the next 3 years as part of our review of the CRMP. So I think lots of things have come out and I think we have been fair, we've been reasonable, we're trying to do as Mr. Brook wants, asked to do, but we've got to not impinge on his operational independence. Him and his team and the experts they've had in are the experts. and I've not seen the evidence to see we should be going against his proposals. So certainly I wouldn't be recommending we go out for consultation again.
So,
Yeah, I think I've covered most of the problem. It was Nuneaton Bedworth was response times and also moving the pumps. South Warwickshire, we're putting additional resources in and improving the availability of pumps, and I think I can't remember the question. Sorry? Oh, yeah.
What about the CRMP going to full council? You haven't covered.
And the consequential,
And the consequential,
changes in recommendation 2.
So yeah, but we'll. I'm just seeking some. We will be putting those to. Once this has gone through, we will put in those to Cabinet and Council in September.
Definitely.
It says it in the recommendation.
No, it doesn't. It says it might. Might. That's what it says. If necessary. Is what it says. It's not definite.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, that may be.
can I just, whilst we just get clarification, I'm just going to say that actually I think there is a danger that we as a council are losing a point that this is a significant investment in our fire service at a time when, and I think every one of us, whatever our colour and persuasion, know that local government finance is not in a strong place. I think for us to have been able to achieve this and to meet better the outcomes for our residents has addressed exactly the point of this, which is resourcing to risk. And the point that I want to say is it is never easy in a council area like Warwickshire, where you have quite an urban north area and a very sparsely populated southern area, to address the demand and also require the cover. And I think I have to commend the Chief Fire Officer and the team that have worked with you, and I have to also thank those who have been part of the consultation and have contributed some very useful feedback which has helped to shape this to come forward with a plan that actually invests money in Warwickshire Fire and Rescue Service. There has at all times been a recognition that our service is a fantastic service. The firemen and women who serve Warwickshire do this at their own risk, and we know, history has related, that risk is considerable and prices have been paid, and we recognise that. You know, it is a really tough place to be. These are people who run to danger, not away from danger, to protect us. The important thing for us is knowing that the Inspectorate has required this. We know that we have a problem with the numbers. I would dearly love to wave a magic wand and say we will be able to find more people to come forward to support our on-call service. And that has been tried for 5 years at least now, not just in Warwickshire, but it certainly has in Warwickshire, without that securing the numbers that we need to provide the service that we had. So we have to address need, because my residents, and I was asked the question, my residents are sitting there with the belief that there is a wonderful shiny red service going on that will be there for them, and it isn't always there for them. And I want to be able to provide them with the confidence and the security that I believe this, by investing money in at a really tough time, and I have to say, I repeat that, this is a really tough time for local government finance, we are putting money into it. I do not want to put any more risk to this service, and I think I want to thank you, Andy, and the service for coming forward with what I think has been a really positive contribution which will look after the people of Warwickshire as very well as we can. In response. Sorry.
In response to the question about the community risk management plan, I mean, they must cover at least 3 years, and ours is a 5-year plan, I believe. So what we will be doing post the decision today is we'll be doing a review against CRMP, and if changes are required, it will come to council. It's not required to come to council in September, but what we will do is check very carefully to make sure that any changes that are material or significant are addressed through it going to council if it needs to. So you're quite right, it's not guaranteed.
So, Andy, over to you for the recommendation.
Yeah, just very briefly, I've got to say, obviously echo lots of praise towards our Warwickshire Fire and Rescue firefighters who do a great job, but also like to echo praise and support to the control teams, the non-operational teams who support and make the wheels turn, make sure the equipment's available, and so the firefighters go. So they do a really positive job. And we also spoke about potential, but there are potential job opportunities for on-call firefighters. We are creating 30 new posts. In some cases, people do transition from being an on-call firefighter to being a full-time firefighter. So that is really positive. And I know that some of our on-call firefighters are already working for Fire and Rescue anyway as well. So there are some posts already. I've had quite a bit of information and sometimes criticism from members of the public, particularly in the south, but I just want to read out somebody from who happens to be here, somebody said from the south of the county that I'd like all cabinet members to know that Bidford Parish Council is strongly in favour of the changes that resulted in Model A for the following key reasons. It recognises and addresses the vulnerability of the rural south of the county, particularly overnight. It retains and makes best use of the excellent levels of cover provided overnight by on-call stations such as Bidworth and Portsworth and Septon. So we are getting some praise for this. We obviously won't be able to praise everybody. We think we've made a real positive contribution, and hopefully we'll make a positive contribution to the residents, visitors and businesses of Warwickshire. So there are 4 recommendations. 5, sorry, I can tell I was accounted. I've got my hand over that piece of paper. The 5 recommendations, I'm asking that Cabinet agrees the 5 and looking for support on those. Thank you.
So we've got those 5 recommendations which have been printed on page 199 for clarity. There's been a good debate and we've had some excellent representation. I'm asking Cabinet if you want to agree those recommendations as printed. Agreed. Agreed. Thank you. Thank you very much. I should also say thank you to all of those public who have attended today and those online who have represented their views to us throughout the consultation process. They are much appreciated. They are. Thank you for that. You are more than welcome to stay if you